Today we got to talk about Amarius Mims, who has decided to push back his commitment date. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I need to talk about Amarius Mims, who has pushed his commitment date back by nearly 2 months to October 14th after first announcing that he was going to commit on August 15th. August 14th has significance for him. 6'7", 315-pounder is, born on October 14th. So that makes some sense, right? I would want to make a big decision on my birthday, which is tomorrow, actually. So like me and Harry Potter, born on the exact same day of the exact same year, and somehow he gets the letter and I don't. I cry foul. But for Amarius Mims, this doesn't really change what we think is going to happen, which is his eventual, perhaps, maybe, announcement, like to Georgia, because he's a Georgia lean. But stranger things have happened. Stranger things tend to happen all the time. Take a look at this pandemic. But what I thought was interesting about this is that if you look at the recruiting rankings today, Georgia ranks number 16, which does not feel like the place where Georgia should be, which is like 3 spots behind number 13, Oklahoma. But if you look at their average player ranking, you will see it at 93.95. With 10 commits or more in the boat, which is what Georgia has, the only teams with a higher average ranking per player are all in the top 3. Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. All of them are tracking at 94 plus, right? And then you get to LSU at number 6, and they're right below average score in like 93.1, right? So if Kirby Smart continues to land the kind of commits that he has been landing, I would expect them to charge up the rankings, finish in the top 5. Now that said, Amarius Mims is a big part of that, right? And for Kirby Smart, you need to get a big win in Georgia after watching Jordan Hancock commit to Clemson and then commit to Ohio State, seeing Barrett Carter commit to Clemson in May, and then losing Terrence Ferguson to Alabama in July. Say nothing of all of the talent that comes out of Georgia. Now, that said, he's picked up a few Georgia commits, and one of them being Brock Vandagriff, who is one of the better quarterbacks in this 2021 recruiting cycle out of Prince Avenue Christian in Bogart. Matter of fact, that was Lincoln Riley's first pick, right? Before the Ginger reopened his recruitment, we all thought he was headed to Oklahoma, where it felt like it was a glove fit, and that might be one of the reasons why most people were let down. Then you see Lincoln Riley's able to basically trade up and go get the number 1 quarterback in the cycle in Caleb Williams out of Washington, D.C., where he expects to play his senior season at Gonzaga College High School. Now, that's the other part of this that I find interesting. We've seen nothing but moving and shaking as it pertains to the schedules for the vast majority of college football. Only the Big 12 and the SEC are left to have not announced any changes. But knowing that we are probably going to see the extension of the dead period to a degree, or something of the sort of limiting the number of visits that a commit can make, whether it be official or unofficial, I am intrigued to find out how this might play into Amarius Mims' recruitment, because we're going to find out whether or not Kendall Daniels commits to Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Clemson, LSU over the weekend. Same is going to be with Damon Harmon, who has Oklahoma among his top suitors. And we're fast increasing the number of players that we're going to see commit, because many of the guys want to have this done by the time they start their senior seasons, because that is the most important thing to them. However, this is also a very strange year in that there are going to be a lot of really great high school football players that don't get an opportunity to play their senior seasons because they will early enroll in January, when places like California, where the season has been pushed back to March, and then, of course, in Virginia, where the season has been pushed back to March as well. Now, Tony Grimes comes out of Virginia, and he made the decision to try to, redo his classification and get to North Carolina next month, which is like 3 days from now. Now, I understand why he wants to play football, and it seems like North Carolina is going to try to do everything they can to play football. And with this 10+1 schedule that the ACC is running, he would get an opportunity to face every team, well, not every team, but every team in the ACC, which means that he'd get to try his luck against Amari Rodgers and that vaunted Clemson offense I mean, even more so than usual, right? So I'm interested in that because that all of a sudden means that we get to see Sam Howell versus Trevor Lawrence. And last year, that game was really great. Clemson won a 1-point victory, 21-20, as Sam Howell just didn't make it on a speed option to a 2-point conversion play call. It's intriguing, right? Phil Longo, Jay Bateman, they really want Tony Elliott and Brent Venables this year. But for Georgia, this means that games like Georgia Tech, which only matters to the folks in Georgia and really only matters to the folks at Georgia Tech, might not happen this year. We're going to find out what that means, and that means that the number of games that they are really trying to get recruits in for also is going to be difficult. Matter of fact, they were supposed to have a non-conference game versus Virginia in Atlanta, which I'm sure would have done a great deal for Georgia in recruiting, because I remember the Notre Dame-Georgia game, one of the reasons that I wanted to go there was so I could see who they got to show up to the games. And one of the guys they got to show up was Darnell Washington. We all know how that went. And you had also dignitaries and celebrities on hand of all stripes, right? I think the governor was out there along with Rich Homie Quan, who I got to dap up, Ric Flair, who I got to dap up, and a number of other great Georgia football players like Champ Bailey, who was out there at the coin toss. So these are all things that I'm sure they wanted to use to either continue to keep Amarius Mims committed if he would have chosen to go to Georgia on August 15th, but it's certainly going to be one of those things that they try to factor into how they continue to keep him involved in their recruiting, as well as trying to continue to build around that really great average of 93.95. And I think they have an opportunity here. They're just going to have to pull some rabbits where perhaps there are no rabbits to pull, right? Corey Foreman feels like a USC lean, but Alabama, LSU, and Georgia want in. Same thing with Clemson, where he's once committed. We know that there are a number of other high-quality recruits that are committed to other classes that Georgia's looking to poach away. And we know that Kirby Smart has made a habit of going into Nick Saban's coffers and stealing from him, right? Which is to say, what Nick Saban does to everybody else. Who do you learn it from? And I'm interested to see what quarterback decides to commit to Alabama after Drake May reopened his recruitment last February, because usually that guy is a guy that Kirby Smart wants. And at least twice in the last 4 years, he's made a habit of going to get that guy, whether it be Jake Fromm or Carson Beck. Now, with the offense changing in the way that it is, I'm sure Amarius Mims is going to watch to see how much pass blocking, how much run blocking, and how good that offensive line is with Matt Luke and not Sam Pittman. And I, for one, am very interested to find out what that looks like as well, because I think that Sam Pittman had a lot to do with not just recruiting great offensive line talent to Georgia, but developing it. Because you look at Andrew Thomas, you look at Isaiah Wynn, you look at the guys that they've had drafted into the NFL, and you can see that Sam Pittman has the receipts. One of the reasons why I'm expecting Arkansas to be pretty good, not this year, but next year, right? Next year ought to be the magic year for them. But in talking about Amarius Mims, I think that perhaps somebody else gets an opportunity to get in his ear. Maybe it's an LSU, maybe it's an Alabama, although Alabama's seeming to really want Tristan Lay to finish out their offensive line recruiting. Perhaps it could be someone that we're not even thinking about, like a Tennessee, who I'm sure would love to have a player of his caliber, especially in the SEC East, where they have a rival in Georgia that routinely stomps a mud hole in them and walks it dry. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.